Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about group trips and how I put my previous trip together and how I'm going to put all the ones in the future together too. I get a lot of comments and a lot of DMs asking me how I put my trip together, if I have any advice that I can share. So in today's video, that's what I'm going to do. Today, I actually just got home from work, so I'm a little tired, but I said I'm going to push through and record this video for you guys. So I'm not going to waste any time. I just want to kind of chat with you guys. I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, so I have my water here. 1 second. So we're basically just going to be chatting, talking about group trips and some of the things that are important whenever you're planning one, okay? So let's just jump right in it. I have me like a little checklist here so that I can cover all the things that I want to talk to you guys about. But first things first is when you're thinking about doing a group trip, hopefully before you're getting into groups, you've been doing some like individual bookings, things like that, so you know how to at least book travel, whether that's with the vendor or with some of the sites that you can use like Vax. They have like a bunch of different vendors in one website that you can use. There's Vacation Express, or you can reach out to vendors directly. So you should know how to at least book travel before you start trying to do group trips. So the first thing you want to do is identify your niche or your target audience for the group trip. Now, this doesn't have to be the same as your niche or your target audience when it comes to your agency in itself. Like if you're doing individual bookings too, you don't have to necessarily target that same demographic, but you probably should, because you're hopefully have already built a relationship, built brand awareness with that type of clientele or that demographic. So it would be easier to just stick with whoever you're already selling to, because I've said this before, some people do sell to everybody, and I don't know how they do it, but they do. I don't know if they're really successful doing it that way, but what the best business practices is to always niche down and focus on a smaller target opposed to like the entire world, right? Because an elderly person that's like in their late 60s, don't get offended if you're elderly and I say late 60s, but like if you're like early 70s or whatever, that person is not typically going on the same type of vacation or looking for the same vibe of vacation as somebody who's, let's say, like 23 or 24. You know, that's a very big gap in just a lot of things, right? So the things that they like, the culture, the values, all that stuff is really different. So it's really hard to build a brand and target all of those people under one big umbrella. So that being said, you should have a niche. So I'm going to give you some examples about what I mean. Some people do like all women's trips. That could be a thing. Maybe you want to do couples group trips. That could be a thing. Wellness retreats. So maybe you're going to focus on, wellness things like doing yoga, certain type of what are the like those sound body baths, those things that are in the wellness realm. Maybe that's going to be incorporated into your trip because you're focusing on those people who like to meditate and do that whole wellness thing. Some more examples, maybe, and I don't see a lot of these. Somebody could go ahead and start doing all men's group trips. I don't really see those out there as much. At least I haven't came across them a lot. Now I don't know if it's men that's just that maybe they really just don't like to travel with people they don't know. I don't know, but I'm not seeing a lot of that out there right now. So that is something to think about if you're interested in doing that. Some more could be maybe single moms. That would probably be a really good one, right? Or even just families in general. So just to give you some ideas of what niches are, you want to have a niche so that you know who you're targeting before you even start to plan your group trip, right? And so I'll just give you an example from me, because you guys already know this. I usually, right now, I like to sell the Caribbean and then just beach destinations in general, right? So a lot of my group trips are focused on places in the Caribbean because that's what I specialize in my agency overall right now. So moving on from niches, because I'm thinking you guys are kind of getting the feel for that. Let's move on. So the next thing I want to talk about is defining the purpose. So the theme trip, right? So I kind of talked about that already, right? If it's going to be a wellness retreat, right? Or if it's going to be a girls getaway, So you're doing a lot of things that women would like. You know, that's dressing up alike, doing a pool party, maybe doing some kind of fancy night where you guys can put on like really formal wear, doing things that women like to do. Maybe you're gonna do a spa day together. You want to come up with a theme for your trip so that whatever you're putting together, like those activities, it makes sense, and it just makes it like a funner experience. Is funner a word? I don't know, but it makes it a better experience. It makes them feel like, you know, they're going on a exclusive trip that's been curated just for them, and it's not just like, oh, I'm going to Jamaica for vacation. No, I'm going on a group trip, a girls getaway to Jamaica, and you have this whole itinerary plan that's going to cater to that particular woman and what women like to do. So that's one thing when we're talking about themes, and I kind of already talked about that when we're talking about wellness. So it's just about what you want your trip to be about and who you're targeting, really. Now the next thing is destination research. Now this is no different than when you are booking your regular trips, right? So if you are, whenever you're getting inquiries and you're doing the research for that client, you're seeing what are the best options, what are the best resorts to go to, all those type of things. It's no difference whenever you're doing a group trip. So just to give you a little quick rundown, what I like to do when I'm thinking about a group trip, like first say, just Jamaica comes off the top of my tongue all the time. So let's just do this scenario with Jamaica. If I know that I'm planning a group trip to Jamaica, some of the things that I'll research is obviously the activities. What are we going to do when we get there? But before I even do that, I'm probably going to lock in my hotel, right, or my resort. So what I'll do is I'll look at the resorts. You know, there's different platforms you can use to do this, and I try to base it off what I want, like what my brand standard is. So for me, I say we don't book resorts, even for individual clients, even though I'm not really focusing on individual clients a lot right now in my business. I don't like to book resorts that are less than 4.5 stars, like 4 maybe, but rarely. So normally we stick to a 4.5 and up. And so I'll look at those resorts and I'll see, okay, which one do I think is going to fit what I'm going for, which is going to fit the vibe, because I don't really sell wellness retreats, for instance. So I'm not going to book something that's like Zoetry or something, right? I'm not going to book something that's focused heavily on meditation and calming environment. You know, it's very relaxed and chilled at the resort. That's not really the vibe I'm going for in my group trips. Like, I still want them to have time where they can relax and go visit the spa, but we still want to have music. We still want to party at the pool. You know, we still want that party atmosphere in a sense. So that's what you also have to think about whenever you are picking a resort for your group. Make sure that the resort is going to fit whatever theme you have going for the group, right? So I make sure, I like to look and see what are the activities that they already offer on the resort. Do they have live DJs at the pool? Are there dances? What kind of entertainment do they have at night? Just anything like that, so that I can make sure that this resort is going to fit my clientele and the type of group that I'm trying to put together. I'm thinking off the top of my head to make sure there's nothing else I want to tell you about picking the actual resort. Something I do take into consideration is obviously the price, right? Because we're going to mark this trip up. We're not going to sell it for the base price, because that's not, you're not going to make enough money in your business doing it that way. So I like to make sure the price isn't too outrageous, because I know I'm going to charge a markup, and I don't want it being, you know, too extremely like over a reasonable price, right? And reasonable price is subjective, right? So I really hate that I even said that, but you know, I want to make sure that it fits the price that I think is reasonable for the client, right? So I do take that into consideration. Now, something I'm just going to throw this in here is that you're going to have to change your mindset when it comes to pricing, especially pricing your groups. One of the mistakes I made in the first group that I did is that I was thinking, oh, I really don't want the price to creep up too much, but I want them to have this uber special experience. I want them to feel pampered, to receive all these gifts. So a lot of things, I know I did this, and I do not want you guys to do this, okay? But I took a lot of the expenses from my own pocket, right? And I was okay with doing that. I wouldn't recommend it. That's not good business practices. But it was like my first one, so I still wanted to deliver a really good group trip, but I didn't want to sacrifice on the experience that the client had, right? And I just wanted to use that. I kept telling myself this. I don't know if I was just telling myself to make myself feel better, but I was saying, you know, this trip is more of a learning experience for me. I used that trip as basically a group course, if you will, to teach me, you know, what not to do, what to do, and how to move forward with my groups. So I didn't really focus on the money that I was making or that I was losing with that particular group, because I wanted it to be just a learning experience. So that being said, don't try to overthink the pricing. Go off the numbers. If set a standard for what you want to mark up the trip, whether that's 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever. And when you get the number, don't change it based off, oh, well, that's kind of expensive. No, you want to go off the numbers in business, or your business will always be in the red, okay? So that's just my 2 cents on that. Now, moving on, let's see, what are some other things I wanted to tell you about? When it comes to research, some more things that I did was research the activities, like I said. And if you can, if you really want to make your group trips worth it, try not to book group excursions. So, you know, you can go on to Viator, or however you say it. You can go to their website and book excursions and tours and different things like that. Or you can go to the independent tour operators and book group trips as well, or group tours as well. But what I would say do to make your trip more exclusive and more appealing, to your clientele, is to ask the vendor for private tours and get pricing on private tours, so that your trip feels more exclusive, right? You know, if you're already a group of people, they're gonna feel like so much more special, so much like they're VIP if they're pulling up to the excursion and they're not going on the same boat with a whole bunch of people from all over the world that they don't know, and they have their own boat, or they have their own catamaran, and it's just you guys and your group trip is on that boat, and you guys are dressed alike, or you're looking good, whatever. That makes them feel, you know, more special. It makes them feel like, you know, oh, I'm getting the VIP experience. It's just, it ups the quality and the perceived value of your group trips. So keep that in mind whenever you're researching tours. And another thing I'm going to tell you about tours is make sure that the things like transportation is already included. Make sure you have that set up, because when you get to the resort and you guys are getting ready to go to your excursion, your guests are going to be looking at you like, okay, how we're getting there. You don't want them to get there and be like, okay, well, we all got to catch a cab, or, you know, we got to pay the hotel driver to take us there. All this needs to be taken care of before they even arrive, so that they're just experiencing it, they're having a good time, and everything is taken care of on for them on their behalf, right? So moving on, I think that's what all I want to talk about with research. There's so much that goes into how you want to budget all your trip, right? So it's not just, oh, picking a random price and this is going to be the amount that I'm going to charge the client. No. And it's definitely not picking the price that whatever the vendor is selling, right? I said you want to mark it up, and there's a lot of things that go into marketing up so that you are not in the red. And it's too much for me to tell you right now, so we'll keep going. But what I will say is that if you guys want to see me break it down, how to put together a group trip, how to budget it, how to price your trip, everything that goes into it, then I recommend you join my monthly coaching subscription. It's really affordable compared to what's out there. And I literally, this next month, we are walking through how to do group trips, like start to finish. Because it's just no way that I could walk you through everything that I do, everything that you need to do, especially when we're talking about contracts with the hotels, in just a YouTube video, y'all. So moving on, next thing I'm going to talk about is kind of already talked about itinerary, but like I said, you want to make sure that you are researching things to do in the destination that you're doing, and make sure that you're including things that will make the experience geared towards whatever country you're in, you know, or whatever island you're on. You want to do some local things, maybe go to a cooking class, maybe go visit historical sites, things like that. You want that included into your itinerary, so that the trip, like I said, it comes off as a higher perceived value, and they feel like they're getting their money's worth for going on the trip with you, and they have an expert, right? So they're not wandering around the country not knowing if they're safe or where to go or what they should do. It's already planned out. So that's the biggest thing with itineraries. And then another thing I'll say is reach out to your BDMs at the hotel and ask what are some of the things that they can offer. So whether that is maybe you're going to do a welcome cocktail party, or maybe you're going to do like a private dinner. We did that in Cabo. There's different things that the resort can offer too. Maybe it's a special welcome drink whenever your guests get there, and maybe they get a private check-in, something like that. So these are all things that you want to include in your itinerary. Some of the things we did, we met for breakfast. I don't remember what I called the breakfast off the top of my head, but we met one morning for like a brunch breakfast type of thing. We met for yoga. Now, something that I did with the yoga, this is why research is so important, right? The resort that we went to, they already offer yoga at the resort, right? And so they had like this nice platform. What am I going to call it? It's not a patio. I can't think of the word. I can't say it right now, but it's like a wooden deck, if you will. And they had like a bar right there too with the hanging swings. I'm sure you guys have probably seen that in pictures before at different resorts. But anyway, they had a big, large space that they would use for like private dinners, or they did events. But the point is they did yoga right there too. And it was really nice because in the background was the ocean, right? So it was a nice view. It was a nice setup. And it just looked really nice and upscale, right? Something you don't get to do every day. So I knew I wanted to do some type of morning exercise, morning yoga thing in my itinerary. So instead, and I was planning to lead it originally, but after I did my research and found out that they did it, I just linked up with the resort, said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do with my guests. This is how many spots I'll need. And we really just joined them in the yoga class, if you will. And we were led by a yoga expert, right? So if you don't know, I'm a physical therapist assistant. So yes, I know exercise, and you can say I'm an expert, but I'm not a yoga expert, you know? So it was nice that we had, this special yoga person that comes in just to do yoga with everybody. So that was a nice feel. So my point is, research the resort to see what they offer, and then how you can incorporate that into your itinerary. Because like those private dinners, that's going to cost you money, depending on how many people you have coming. Some of the concessions that they can give you, depending on how many people are booking with you, you might be able to get like a free cocktail party or something like that. But typically those things cost extra if you don't hit those mile markers in order to get it for free. So that being said, do your best to research what the resort already offers. That way you are not having to charge more for certain events. And like I'm going to always say, it sets a higher perceived value the more that you include in your itinerary. So that hopefully that makes sense. Let's see, booking and coordination. So a lot of people have questions about how does it work when it comes to the flights and things like that. So what I'll tell you is that I do plan in the future to travel to places that are farther away, like Africa, and different places like that, or the Maldives, like different things like that. And when I do those trips, I will include the flights. Now, typically how that would work is that I would just get a flight contract, and all of my people that are going on the trip will need to fly from our home destination or where we're our home departure. So think of it like a cruise, for instance, right? If you're flying out of a cruise, they have certain ports that you can fly from, right? You can't just they're not just gonna pick you up in Dallas, Texas, right? I'm in Dallas, Texas, and there's nowhere for them to come get me, right? So you have to fly in or drive, whatever. You have to transport yourself on your own dime to get to the port, wherever that is. So it's no difference with this type of trip. So if you want to include flights, what I recommend you do is decide where it's going to be. Hopefully it'll be, if you're the one going on the trips, or your trip moderators or hosts are going from wherever they're from, I would recommend that you either go where that host lives from that airport destination, or from your home base. So my home base is Texas, obviously it's Dallas, Texas. So when we do those trips, people are going to be expected to fly into Dallas whenever they want, really, but at least the day before we are leaving to go on whatever vacation or destination we're headed to. They're going to need to fly here on their own dime, so that's not included in the package pricing, because when you start getting these contracts, the pricing is bundled together pretty much, right? So, and you want to fly from one destination. So we're going from Dallas to ABC, wherever we're headed, right? We're traveling as a group. And that's how you have to set that up. I haven't seen it set up any other way. I wouldn't recommend, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, you already know I am getting away from doing individual bookings anyway, but I don't like to deal with the flights when it comes to that, especially with a large group. Imagine trying to manage, especially when you really get rolling and you're releasing more groups, you're trying to manage all these flights. What if there's delays, what if there's cancellations? You're gonna have to handle all of that in the midst of, running your business or whatever, traveling. That's a lot to put on yourself. So what I recommend is, like I said, have them fly to your location or wherever you plan to leave from. Even if it's like cheaper for y'all to fly from like Chicago to the destination, then you also fly into Chicago, right, that day before, and that's where y'all leave from. You can do that too. So that's my 2 cents on flights. How I do transportation is no difference than when you're booking individual bookings. Reach out to the tour operator, transportation, and book transportation so that it's ready for everybody. So that's pretty self-explanatory too. Now, let me make sure I'm not leaving out anything. No, I think that makes sense. And then next thing I'm talking about is travel insurance. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. Now, I like to use VAX. I never really got into Vacation Express, and I just haven't been led to figure it out as of right now. I've just been using VAX. And so with VAX, whenever I'm booking like when I book a contract or when I go under contract with a vendor or a hotel, the transportation is usually included in that. So I don't have to worry about that. And then also I have the option of offering travel insurance. Now for this trip, I did do the travel insurance as part of something that they can opt into with the trip, right? But moving forward, the problem with that I had was one, and I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to give, like I said, this was a learning trip experience for me. I did give them the option to do either travel credit or the cash back, the money back. Now moving forward, if I offer the travel insurance as part of the package or as something that they have the option to opt in through me, I won't offer travel credit. I will only do money back. And here's why. At this time, I was still heavily doing individual bookings, right? I'm not doing individual bookings anymore. So now I have at least, well, one lady has already used her funds, so it wasn't a big deal. But I had at least one person who wanted to do travel credit, right? So now I have a travel credit just sitting there for somebody to use in the future. Why can't I talk today? I have a travel credit sitting there for someone to use in the future, and I'm not even really into doing individual bookings, right? So I still have to bring that person along and wait till whenever they're ready to book, before their deadline or the expiration of that travel credit. And on top of that, this is just my particular situation, is I moved away from my host. So now you're having to pay these host fees just to get everybody off and under your belt who has a travel credit with you, or you don't get that, right? Like, I'm sure I could, pass it on to another agent under my host or whatever, but that's just not something I thought about doing. So when it comes to travel insurance moving forward, I'm actually not offering travel insurance. I'm giving resources to do travel insurance because people can really do that on their own, right? It's really not complicated. It's as simple as them going onto the website, putting in the dates, putting in the amount they paid that they want to be insured, and it's really that simple. So moving forward, payments made to my group trips are non-refundable, in a sense as it's non-refundable from our company. So we recommend travel insurance, and then I give you the recommended partners that I believe are most reliable insurance companies that they can then go to that site and book the insurance that way. Okay, so moving on, there is so much that goes into a group trip. There is, like, all that I'm giving you guys is just surface level. Like, there's no way that I could just dive in deep on each little thing that you need to do when it comes to putting together these group trips. Now, I loved putting my group trip together. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We bought gifts. I'll tell you all the things that I bought and where I bought them from, and the girls really loved them. Like, I wish I had one of the bags, but I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, in one of my other videos, I showed you some of the gifts that we bought and some of the things that I did for them. So there's a lot that goes into it, y'all. And in my monthly training, I am breaking down every detail, walking you through how to do it, because at the end of the day, the group trips is where you're gonna make more money, right? There was some, because I do the Caribbean, and I wasn't really feeling doing like large groups, and because they were so, I didn't like the decision making to be in my clients' hands because they were so indecisive, right? You would send them 3 hotels or resorts and they would just be like, oh, well, you know, can you send me 3 more? Can you send me 3 more? And that is your time. That is time wasted. And then what do you get to the end? And then they don't even end up booking, or they went and booked on their own. Like, you know, I wanted to remove that type of control away from my clients. So now what I enjoy about group trips is that I pick the destination, I pick the resort, I pick the activities. You decide if you want to go or not. That, I love that. You know, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just feel like that is so much easier. It's less stress on me trying to meet somebody's demand that they, you know, not even really sure what they want to do. They've never been to this destination. I like being in control at the end of the day. So that's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it now. Talking about marketing your trips. Now, this is something that is still a learning process for me. Like, as y'all know, this channel is me bringing you along my journey on running this business and starting this business from ground zero. And I've learned a lot about marketing, but I still don't feel like I'm there yet. I don't feel like I'm where I want to be when it comes to selling out my trips. Now, my first trip, I think we had about like 10 girls. So I'm not going to say that's terrible. I mean, it was my first one, but that's very, very small to where I want to be. Like, I want to be cranking out these trips left and right and selling them out. So there's so much that I've learned as far as marketing goes and what I need to be doing. And it's like I know it all, but I need to just implement it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's the phase I'm in. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, one of the things that I'm focusing heavy on is growing my social media. So that's something that I'm really sticking to and trying to stay consistent with, is growing my social media platform. Another thing that I'm doing is growing my email list. So a lot of people, I don't even know if y'all even think about your email list or how important an email list is, opposed to, you probably think social media is like the #1 thing. And it's really not. Like, in order to make sales, you're going to need an email list. You're going to need to email your list. And that's where a majority of your sales are probably going to come from. But in my opinion, what I think and what my plan is that in order to get those emails, I'm building my presence and my brand on social media, and then having some type of lead magnet, whatever you want that to be. I'm not going to tell you mine because I'm literally about to set it up today. But I'll tell you what my other one was. So my other one was it was like a trip calculator, like budget calculator. And fun fact, I love ChatGPT. It actually helped me make it in Google Sheets. So you were able to put like how much money you needed for a particular trip, and then it also had all the spaces for like whether it was like clothing to shop for that trip, different things that you would need, just like a whole trip list, item list, and then you could budget accordingly and plan for that trip. That was the previous opt-in that I had, or lead magnet that I had, and I probably will keep that one going. But I just was actually thinking about it this morning. There's another one that I'm getting ready to push out, especially with this new social media plan that I'm doing. And y'all, like I'm telling y'all, I'm getting on this YouTube and I'm giving you all the information that I'm learning, that I'm trying to do, that I've learned from previous years of running different businesses that didn't quite work out, or really that I just didn't stick with. And I'm literally just coming on here and just trying to share it with y'all, because I'm actually heavily invested in learning from social media people, learning from people that do email marketing. Like, I buy so many trainings in, like, just me, any type of business person, so that I can learn and grow my business. And I'm literally just giving that to y'all with no expectations. So that's why I say it's hard for me to break it down on YouTube, because that takes so much time, screen recordings, and really walking you through how to do this. So that's why I set up the monthly training, and I'm gonna leave that link below in the description. So marketing, there is a ton of things to do, but if I'm just going to give you some tips, if you're going to launch your first one and you just want to wing it, which I don't recommend, but if you do want to do that, what I would say is the first thing you got to do is build your email list. So you need to build, I wouldn't even worry about like Facebook groups and all that right now. Do one thing at a time. And that the number one thing should be your email list. Create you some type of lead magnet, some type of opt-in, so that you can get people's email address and you can start to nurture those leads. You can start to communicate with them, get them familiar with their business so they're comfortable with spending their money with you. Okay, my camera stopped recording, so hopefully it makes sense where I jump back in. But that's the number one thing you should do when it comes to getting ready to market your trips, is you want to build your email list. So like those coming soon pages, with, like I said, do an opt-in, letting people know, hey, we're planning this trip to Aruba, in 2024. Join our list to be the first to know when the details are ready, right? And then that way you're getting their email address so that you can start to work with them. Now moving on. Managing signups and inquiries. What do I want to say about this? So how I did my first group, and probably how I'm going to do the ones moving forward as of right now, until I switch my CRM, is that I use TravelJoy. And I used TravelJoy on this previous one too, and the ones that I have set up now is also set up with TravelJoy. Just because TravelJoy allows you to communicate directly through TravelJoy with your clients. It makes it easy for you to sign them up for these trips, because they have group booking pages in TravelJoy. My only beef with TravelJoy is that the fees are ridiculous, in my opinion. They are like double what you would pay for like your own website host. So like I have Wix, which I think I've said before, and my transaction fees on Wix are like half the cost of doing these trips on TravelJoy. So think about that. You have to add that fee or that percentage of your transaction fees into the overall cost, so that you're not eating those costs when it comes to people buying into the trip. And so that's also going to make the price go up, right? So I'm really wanting to get away from TravelJoy as soon as I can. But for now, I am using TravelJoy. And there's two ways that you can do this. Now, if you have a host, they probably won't let you do this. But you can take payments from the client and hold it into TravelJoy. So basically they're making payments to you. You're holding that money there, and then you make the payment to the vendors, the activities, the tours, whatever you booked, right? Through like group funds and things like that within TravelJoy. If you're not familiar with that, there is a lot of videos that actually TravelJoy has themselves on their YouTube channel. And then some of the things that I'll talk about in our monthly training. But like I said, everything else I'm okay with TravelJoy. It's just there's only so much you can do when it comes to doing email marketing with them, and then the fees are really high in my opinion. So, but for now I do use TravelJoy. So, and it makes it easy because I can connect each group that I'm selling to their group booking page, and it will keep those funds separate and easy to manage. So that's another thing. If you're managing these people money, you better make sure you're doing a good job, right? Because if you're getting close to the deadline, you haven't been making payments, or maybe you've been paying for other stuff in your business instead of that was supposed to go to those group bookings, then obviously you're going to have some very upset individuals on your hands, and you don't want to operate business that way. So there's another way that you can do it in TravelJoy, and that's where you are sending a supplier's invoice. So basically all TravelJoy is doing is allowing you to collect their card information so that you can use that card information and then go pay the vendor. So those are some of the ways that you can manage the signups and inquiries. And just to give you an idea, I don't just use the group booking page in TravelJoy. Like, it's not appealing. Like, I think you only add like one picture or something. I actually set up a page on my website through Wix as which is a sales page essentially, and I put all the information, the pictures, I make it exciting, make it inviting for people to want to join you on this trip. And then once they click the book now or whatever button I have on the page, then that button will take them to TravelJoy's sign up page for them to actually join that particular group. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's see, what else do I want to talk about? I don't really want to talk about that. But I will say that something that you should think about, and that I'm not going to get into right now, is that there are legal things that you have to keep in mind, right? So there's waivers that you should have them sign. There's like acknowledgments that you should have them sign, especially if it's like a no refund type of situation. There's different things that you want documented and signed so that you're not on the hook for certain things, like maybe someone to get hurt when they were on destination, maybe they fell off a four-wheeler, I don't know, things like that. You want them to already have signed a waiver in order to protect you. So think about that as well. In trip management, what I'm gonna say about that, some of the things I would say is, I obviously, because I'm just starting out doing the group trips, I've been going on the trips, but me and my husband are actually working towards starting a family, so fingers crossed with that. So as the time goes, I probably won't be going on every trip that I'm going to launch, right? So I always want to have a trip host to go on these trips with them. So that's how I plan to manage the trips, right? And the host really won't have to know how to do my job, because everything should be already done prior, and they would just have like the information, and they would have the training to make sure that everything is flowing well. If something is going wrong, I'm sure I'll be available to assist, but they're really just being the eyes and ears on site, and just being there for the guest in case something was to arise, like a conflict, maybe it's something with the rooms or whatever. They have somebody that they can speak to directly, and it just gives them that, like I said earlier, that feeling of being a VIP client, and they're not just on any old vacation, right? So that's what I would say about the in-trip management. Collecting payments, we kind of talked about that already, so I won't go back into that. Now, some of this other stuff, you want to follow up with your group after they get back home. Kind of what I did was I put together a survey, so a post-trip survey, whatever you want to call it, and I sent that out once they got back so that I can get feedback on what they liked, what they didn't like, Okay, sorry guys, my camera battery died. I had to switch that out. So I was saying, I don't know how much it caught, but what I did was basically send a post survey, and so that's going to let you know what are some of the things they liked about the trip, what did they feel like the trip was missing, what could have been better, and just give you feedback, like honest feedback, so that you can make the next trip better. That's what you're going to use this for. It's not just, oh, I want to know what they thought about the trip. No, I want to know what they thought about the trip so that I can make all the trips in the future a lot better, so that we don't have the same type of things. You want to always make the next trip better than the last. So that's the whole point of the post-trip survey. And if you want like tips and a walkthrough of how to set that up, again, do the monthly training, because that's where I'm going to walk you through it all. Okay, so I feel like as far as today, that's a lot that I've given y'all already, but like I said, doing the group trip was so much fun. It was, and I'm just going to kind of chit chat with y'all here now. Hopefully this video isn't getting too long. I can't see the timestamp, but the group trip was so fun. It got me out of my comfort zone, because I'm really an introvert. I don't really like being in large groups of people. I don't like talking to people. I like, just staying in my own world for a majority. But I had to get out of my comfort zone. And actually, I'm never really that person that's going to start the conversation in a group. But I had to, because I was hosting the trip. So on that first night when we did the welcome cocktail party, we handed out our gift bags and all those things. At the get, you had to get people excited. They're coming in. They don't really, if they've come by themselves, they don't really know other people. And what if you got introverts in the group, right? So you have to get people mingling. You have to get them talking to one another, introducing them to one another, and really get the flow of the group going early, so that you guys are meshing throughout the rest of the group, right? You don't want a group trip where everybody's just like, oh yeah, I'm staying to myself, I don't really know anybody. No, that's weird. We don't want that. So I really had to get out of my comfort zone and make sure that people were having a good time. And so, I'm going to be honest with you guys, because I want to share my honest and authentic experience with you. I was a little nervous in the beginning. I was like, I don't really feel like people are gelling, and I was probably just being hard on myself, because at the end of the day, I didn't know these people, but I had at least been talking to them for a few months, whether that was on the phone or through emails. So I was getting to know them, but they didn't know they didn't know each other. So they didn't have those previous conversations to be acquainted with anybody. So we did that welcome cocktail party, and then we did a game night after dinner on the first night. And the whole purpose of the game night was to bring people together, to get to know one another, to break the ice with one another. I didn't really do any icebreakers. We just did the games, right? And I had some different ones. I brought, like, there was a drinking game. We did Cards Against Humanity. It was just different stuff, to break the ice. If you know Cards Against Humanity, that's an icebreaker in itself. Some of the stuff that are on those cards. But yeah, so that's just kind of like my 2 cents on putting together a group trip. And that's like very, very surface level. I know that probably told you nothing about how to take action and start the group trip, because I would rather walk you through that. Like I said, you see, even just talking through it, how long that took. So walking you through each step is gonna, it's a big thing to do. So if you're interested in launching a group trip, sign up to the monthly subscription. I'm telling you, it's super affordable compared to what's out there. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.